Hey everyone, this is Ron again with my podcast. This is my third time doing this. Hopefully, I'm getting better by the minute. Today with me is Sam Buckenmaier, right?
Buckenmaier. Yep.
Buckenmaier. Yes, I did it. Sam Buckenmaier. She's from Stanton House. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. What do you currently do, Sam?
Yeah. So obviously work for Stanton House. Originally from Maryland area, grew up out there, and then a Chicago transplant. I like to say I've been here for a couple of years. Been with Stanton House for about a year and a half now. I work as a senior consultant, focusing mainly on kind of leadership and exec searches. So I work a lot with kind of C-level execs in the cybersecurity arena.
Perfect. Thank you. What is Stanton House? What do you guys do?
Yeah, no, of course. So we are a global recruitment company. We do have offices in different parts of the world that specialize in different areas of recruiting. But in our Chicago, US office, like I said, where I'm based, all we focus on is information and cybersecurity recruitment. So like I said, I work very closely with leadership and C-level execs. We also have a team that works with analysts, architects, and engineers, and we build out security functions on behalf of companies across the whole of the United States, with a little bit of work up in Canada, but mainly in the US.
Okay, awesome. So, how did you get to be a recruiting consultant in Stanton House, dealing in cybersecurity?
Yeah, so I feel like, as most recruiters will sometimes tell you, I kind of fell into it, honestly. I was a COVID graduate, and that was not a good job market to be graduating in. So everything was on hiring freezes. I'm sure you know, but as I was kind of looking for something new, I ended up actually working for an AmeriCorps program, which is basically a domestic Peace Corps. So I was doing a lot of work on food insecurity in a collegiate world in Rockford, Illinois. And I was looking for something new. One of the things that I really liked about that particular job was the relationship building, the talking to people, learning about people's journeys in order to best help them. And recruiting just seemed like a natural next step for me. So I started to pursue it a bit more. Came across Stanton House, and I was interviewing with them along with a couple others. But I feel like what stood out to me the most here was how human and genuine people were at this company. Everybody had a purpose. They just wanted to make the cybersecurity world better, and do that by being able to place, really top tier talent and just good people into the roles that we work. So I didn't know anything about cybersecurity getting into it, kind of just started and jumped in with both feet. Learned a lot early on. And I mean, like I said, at the core, it's just building relationships, which I really like to do. So being able to talk to people on a daily basis and kind of work with individuals and help them find their new best thing was really exciting for me. And as we've grown up the team and grown out the team, I've kind of moved up in the company. And now I'm a senior level here, and we're a team of 6 at the moment, with a global, a US presence of about 20.
Awesome. Quick question for you about the skills that newcomers, after they broke in, which is very hard to break into cybersecurity these days. After they broke in, what are the top 3 skills that managers are looking for? Top managers are looking for to promote these kind of people, newcomers. What do they need to work on after they got through the door?
Yeah, it's a good question. I obviously think on the technical side, I'm not going to get into that side too much, because it really depends on where you want to go with the technical, whether, which route you're going down, depending on what entry level cybersecurity position you're in. But I do think there are some really important soft skills to take with that technical side as well. I think with security, it changes so quickly and it adapts so quickly. One of the most important things that you have to have is just an innate desire to learn and continue learning. Because I feel like as soon as you stop reading about what's going on, you're like 6 months behind. So I think at the base, just figuring out what you can do to continuously not only improve the posture of the company, but also improve the skill set that you have. And that's through kind of figuring out cutting edge technology, whether it's in cloud or whether it's in, continuing up your coding skills, stuff like that. But just really making sure that you have the avenue and the want and the desire to continue that learning is a big one. I would also think the second one I would say is probably the ability to communicate. both in terms of what you are doing on a daily basis, but also making sure that you can communicate what you're doing to your higher ups in order to have and provide some insight into your day-to-day. Because a lot of times if you're on a larger team, those things can kind of get missed, those day-to-day, small wins, I like to call them. But being able to communicate those small wins to your peers and your mentors and your bosses is really going to get you noticed. And self-promotion, people don't always like to do because it can be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's really important in terms of trying to find that next promotion and that next step. And then I think the third is honestly acting in the role that you want to be promoted into. So if you identify the next step, either from, your manager is telling you what the next step is, ask them questions about what a person in that role looks like, what they need to be doing, and then just start acting in that way. A lot of times when you're promoted, you've already been working in that role in some way, shape, or form for quite some time. So it's a very natural next step and natural progression. So the more that you can act in those behaviors or take on additional projects that a senior level may be taking on, ask your peers who are in that position if you can get involved in any projects. Just all those little opportunities are really important to take initiative and get involved in, while also communicating that you're doing this to your managers to help with that insight. So I would say those are probably the top three things.
Wow, I love the last one. Act is the role that you want. That advice is definitely gold. What percentage of jobs do you see that are truly 100% remote, and do you think that trend is gonna continue? It's a question that a lot of new hires, newcomers, and also current employees would like to know.
Yeah, it is the golden question, and I wish I had the crystal ball to say an exact answer. But I think from my perspective, I would like to see it to continue, and I think we have been seeing it continue, at least in the security world. Honestly, like 98% of the roles that we all currently work are 100% remote, or you have an option to go into the office with a full remote option as well. I think the reason for that being is during COVID, there was an obvious spotlight on culture, on company culture, on also just personal values of what's important for people, because it forced an absolute slowdown for the first time in a very long time of all of the US and the world, just to stop for a little bit and reevaluate, which is a big silver lining in my opinion of COVID. And I think that led to candidates learning how to drive a bit more of the narrative they want forward. And a lot of that has to do with remote work. So we were working remote for 2 years. We were successful for 2 years. I want to keep this way. And if you're not going to let me, I know other places will. So that's the interesting aspect that we're facing right now, is some of the candidates that I'm talking to are only on a job search because they're being forced to go back into the office 5 days a week. So the companies that are not having that remote flexibility are losing their really strong talent for companies that are adapting. So those that are not adapting because, old ways, or because they think people are more productive in the office, are really going to continue to fall behind the times, and continue to not only be able to fill roles, but also be able to, start losing more and more talent.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I've seen a lot of job descriptions out there. They say that they're fully 100% remote, but if you look at the fine print, they say we need you in the office 2 days a week, which is not really fully remote.
Yeah, I actually had a story. I was talking to somebody today that got a job offer, was going to start, said it was fully remote, and then they said, while he had his offer in hand, oh, actually, we're all going back into the office next month. So it's important to ask the question. And the other big tip that I talk to my candidates about and just tell individuals is, if it says it's remote work, get that in the contract, because you don't, it's just a little bit safer to, cover just in case they do decide to change their mind.
Yep. Any tips of what else to ask for in an employment contract?
That's a good question. So I think in an employment contract, I think that's a good one, is in terms of just the I mean, what I just mentioned, but I also think sometimes I've noticed that a bonus or any stock options will not be outlined in a contract. So I dealt with a situation about a year ago with a company that said that there was like, it was like 2 years or something of guaranteed RSUs, and then they would be doubled after those 2 years. And that was nowhere in the contract. It was just a trust kind of type moment. And we went back and forth for a while, and ultimately they did just end up adding it to the contract. Not by any means was there probably anything sneakier going on or anything like that, but we explained it more so as it's just a big comfort point that you for the candidate, because a lot of things can happen in a couple years. So by having it outlined in the contract, by having it worded, it creates a little bit more comfort. So if for any reason an offer doesn't outline the extras, so those RSUs, those bonuses, that kind of stuff, have a conversation as to why and see if that can be added as well.
Yeah, that's I agree with that. I've worked with some startups, and there was a lot of due diligence when it came to RSUs, to the stock option. It went through a lot of iterations before it finally got to a signature day. It's important things to look for in your employment contract. Now, before we continue, if anybody wants to ask Sam a question, you can do it in the comments. I'll put them on the screen, and Sam will be happy to answer those questions. One more question, a couple more questions. How does someone shows a manager that they're ready to get promoted? You said act like you're, the first tip was act like you're already doing the job that you want to. Give me 2 other things that you can show to a manager to get a promotion.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that I would recommend. The first thing is I'm a big proponent that you can do all the good work in the world throughout the year, but it can be hard to remember, honestly, what you've done and what you've accomplished between whether it's a yearly appraisal or whether it's, every 6 months, depending on the time period. And when you get to those appraisals and it's time to talk about yourself and talk about your successes, when you're sitting the day before prepping for it, you're kind of figuring out where did I go? What did I do in this past 6 months? So I recommend both for honestly anybody who is in a professional role, keeping what's called brag book. I actually got this tip from someone that I was talking to about 4 months ago, who was working very closely with women and how to negotiate and all that stuff. She mentioned the brag book. So basically all it is it's whether a note app in your phone or on an iPad or on a piece of paper or whatever. And it's keeping track of small wins and major wins that you've done. So whether it's on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, just having written down the actual successes that you've had. And this all goes back to that visibility type thing, because your manager can't have eyes on what you're doing at all times. So it's really important that you're your own self-advocate as well. That's why I recommend having all of those wins written down. So when it's time to get into an appraisal or your yearly meeting with your boss, or a negotiation or a job offer, anything like that, you have such good qualitative data to back up exactly why you need that promotion, you need that pay raise, anything, because you really have it all written down, and it's hard to argue with that kind of data. I think the second thing that I would say, I think peer feedback is extremely powerful. I know we try to have feedback, in our company twice yearly. We all sit down with each other. We talk about both what people do really well and what people may need to improve upon. And I think when I have been going into a promotion meeting or anything like that, I will ask my peers for feedback on how I've performed against certain points. And it's really nice to get an outsider's viewpoint as well, not only for yourself, but also for that management, to see that you're not only having an impact in your own job, but you're affecting and you're impacting the others around you as well. So I would say those couple things are really valuable to take to a conversation like that.
Okay, that's awesome. These are some great advice. If somebody put in hashtag have a brag book.
I was looking them up. You can buy like brag books on an Amazon or online. And they're
wow.
cool. So
I didn't even know you can buy, like, I just use like Notepad or something. Okay, this is what I did, a running list. Okay.
Yeah, you
But
can certainly do that too. But I mean, having an actual brag book is also pretty cool.
I know, and then have like put it on like a board in your office. Hey,
Mhm.
this is what boss. This is what I did. It's all here.
Yeah, and I think it also, I mean, as a manager, another thing that you could do is have like a brag company, and everybody can put their wins on that wall, because I think it's just really good for celebration and supporting each other, and it creates a fundamental culture of celebrations, which I think can be, really important, especially in, harder times and recession and all that stuff. So celebrating the small wins are definitely important.
Yep, I agree. Smaller wins are very important. They're sometimes they're more important than the big ones because it shows the stepping stones you did to get to that big achievement.
Hmm.
So you got congratulations, you got a promotion, but now there's a conversation about okay, you got a promotion and this is your pay. How do you negotiate a pay increase when you get promoted?
Hmm. It's definitely not easy. And I think what's not easy about it is when you're negotiating a pay raise, it is hard to put a number on yourself without having data to back it up. And if you haven't figured out by now, I'm really big on data. But one of the things that I recommend when individuals are trying to figure out where to go, where to even ask for a pay raise, figuring out what's market rate, because that's the hardest part. It's not so much asking, it's what's fair. So I typically recommend, there's a couple ways that you can do it. Talking to your network is very, very valuable. So wherever you are in your career, there's always going to be somebody that's either at that level, above you, has advice, a mentor, anything like that. And if you don't have those people, I strongly recommend you find a group, because that ability to bounce ideas and needs off of is really important. And just start talking. I would just say start talking to those people who are in similar roles. See what, have an open conversation about comp. Open it with, I don't even know where to begin. I'm asking for a pay raise. I'm nervous. I need to figure out. I want to come up with some data. And people are going to be more open than you would think about talking about it. Because at the end of the day, most people just really want to help the community and they want to help individuals succeed. So having that open conversation with individuals that will give you some small data points to start off of, where you can start benchmarking yourself on where you are. The other thing that I strongly recommend is talking to people like me. Cybersecurity recruiters, we are in the market day in and day out. This is all I do. I talk to a lot of people. I know a lot of people's salaries. We have a salary guide that we put together. We've done a Reddit AUA where we discuss salaries and we discuss how to break into cybersecurity, all of those little things. We have learned a lot. So if you are unsure where to benchmark yourself, reach out and ask the question. We're more than happy to help in that capacity. So I think a little bit of background to give when you're asking that question is just discussing some of your background, perhaps what you're currently doing, where your promotion is taking you, and where your current salary is, and just trying to benchmark where you want to go. And myself, my team, and I'm sure other cybersecurity recruiters out there as well will be more than upfront and more than happy to help you get that pay rise, be very real with what the expectations are, and get you to that next step. But I think a lot of it is just surrounding talking, having those open conversations, getting that data, and then bringing it again to that conversation that you're going in with that management.
Yeah, perfect. These are some great answers. This is some great information here, Sam. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, of course.
A couple of more questions. What traits do companies look for when looking for leaders in the cybersecurity space? And I'm talking about soft skills. Everybody can upskill when we were talking about technical skills. It's you take a YouTube class, you take a
Yep.
try hack me or some things like that, and you upskill your technical skills. But what are some of the soft skills that companies are looking for when they're looking for leadership roles?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I definitely think the soft skills are becoming much more important than they used to be in terms of cybersecurity leadership. A lot of times I would hear individuals getting new roles or talk to new individuals in senior leadership who very much just needed to come from a technical background, kind of grew in their role, and they were just, the natural progression was leadership. But I think there has definitely been an adjustment on the type of leader that companies are looking for as the field is growing and as the meaning of the role is growing as well. I think probably the biggest aspect that you need is just the ability to communicate and communicate effectively. And what I mean by that is you are going to be working with non-security, non-technical folks probably more often than your own team in terms of asking for budget, in terms of talking with other C-level execs in the company or other managers or other directors. And when discussing harder issues typically surrounding budget, honestly, it is really important that you go into that conversation with the knowledge that these people may not have that technical knowledge that you do, may not know the risks quite as much as you do. So it is your job to educate them in a way that they're going to understand, they're going to be able to perform against and be able to earn that budget. So it's really just comes down to communication and constant communication, because we all know, I mean, security is a money protector. They don't really make the company money typically. So being able to discuss the risks, the needs, and the necessary tools to continue to upskill, to continue to be on the cutting edge of that business in terms of protection and security is definitely imperative. I would say the other thing that I would recommend is it goes back to culture. So like I talked about before, there's been a spotlight on culture. Culture is exceedingly important for employees. That's one of the top things that I get asked in terms of a new client that I'm working on behalf. So I think being able to listen just as much as communication effectively, you need to be able to listen to the people that are working for you, listen to where they are having issues, where they see the company going, where they see the culture going, and help be an ambassador for that change, for that shift, and for that continuation of good culture, because that's going to be something that's really important in both keeping and retaining talent.
Is culture carries the same weight now that most people want to be remote?
I would say so. The thing is I think sometimes culture and remote do go hand in hand, as weird as that kind of sounds sometimes. But if you're thinking about the culture of an overall company, it's the culture to really allow and trust your employees to do what they need to do and allow them to have their own values and their own lives at the end of the day. So remote work is culture.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a good answer. I have a question here, and again, if you guys have any kind of questions, please put them in the comments. I will read them here, and Sam was going to answer them. You guys planning to expand to Canada anytime soon?
Ideally, there's no plans at the moment. So like I said, we do a little bit of work up in Canada, but that's mainly when our U.S. clients are hiring out of Canada. We've had a couple situations like that, but at the moment we haven't broken into the Canada market yet, but maybe there's an idea there.
So we're not doing so well when it comes to the economy. Any tips of how to better stand the storm, let's just say? Something that you can do doing in terms of your work right now. You're in a cybersecurity job right now. You're good. How do you protect yourself or future-proof yourself in case something happens?
Right. So the thing that's interesting is you can always have predictions of a recession, but you're never really going to know you're in a recession until you're out of it. So I always tell my team that if things are starting to slow down, if, we have maybe a little less jobs on due to hiring freezes or anything like that, and this goes for everybody in any job, that is one of the best times to have the ability to work on the small points, because you're not as crazy busy with everything, with the daily life, with the daily, just work pressures. So that's when you can really dig down into the details, either with yourself or with your team, and perfect those smaller points that sometimes gets brushed under the rug a little bit when things get busy and ignored. I always say it's really important to self-reflect a little bit, see where you can spend some time on and adjust and perfect. And then that's only going to make you better when you are busy again and when you are back in a thriving economy.
Great tip. So we spoke about things you should do when asking for a promotion, how to show. Is there things that you shouldn't do that are going to hinder your progression in the company?
Yeah, I would say there are some individuals that will refrain from discussing what they've done and how they benefited the company. So it's almost like a fear of having an ego almost. And I always say an interview or an appraisal, that's when you shouldn't be afraid to have an ego. Those people that don't talk about themselves and talk about what they've done are perhaps sometimes the ones that maybe are not being promoted as fast as they would like or as fast as they feel they deserve. And that can be dangerous territory because as soon as you start feeling like, oh, I deserve this promotion, I need to get there, great mentality, but also look back on what you've talked about, what you've shown, what you've done in order to actually have visibility surrounding that promotion. Because like I said before, a manager can't see everything. So you do have to take it on yourself to discuss what you've done and how successful you've been for the team and for the company in order to get that next step.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. So if somebody wants to get a hold of Staten House, how would they do that? So do you have a website that people can go and see open roles, open positions?
We do. Yep. So we have a couple ways to do that. We have our site. We have a cybersecurity at stantonhouse.com. My colleague James is actually in the chat, so maybe he can, if he's still here, he can pop that email in the chat. But again, it's just cybersecurity at stantonhouse.com. We post all of our roles on all of our profiles, myself, my whole team members who are all linked on my LinkedIn page. We post our roles every single Friday. So you can see all of our roles, salaries included. And if you want to learn more about it, you can reach out to myself, my whole team, and inquire about any of the roles, and we can kind of discuss if it would be a good fit for both parties. And then we also have a jobs list via email that goes out that you can sign up for by emailing cybersecurity and just letting us know that you will want to be included in that email blast for the jobs list. And then last thing, we have a cybersecurity jobs group that I'm sure, again, James will post that. There he goes. He posted the link to our jobs group that, again, we post all of a deeper dive of the roles that we have into that group, which are currently the US based. And then last thing, we have a hashtag Stanton House Cybersecurity Jobs or Cyber Jobs, which you can follow, where, again, we post all of our roles. So they're not a secret.
So this is the email address, right? Cybersecurity at stantonhouse.com.
Yeah, that's correct.
Perfect. So if anybody wants to copy it, you can also watch this later on LinkedIn Live. So it's recorded.
Excellent.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you very much, Sam. I really appreciate it. And I think everybody else also appreciate it. Let's see if we have any more questions. James posted the link. He also said that you have a cozy sweater.
It is very cozy. Thanks, James.
And he was asking where you got it. So he probably wants to go shopping.
I knew he would make one cheeky comment at some point.
And let's put this on the screen. Also, linkedin.com group and the group number. And the hashtag also.
Perfect.
Thank you, James. We appreciate the help. Awesome. I think we're all done here. So this was great. Like, this is some of the best advice I've heard in a while for people that want to get a leadership role in cybersecurity. Sam, I really appreciate it. James, thank you for being my helper for this one. I also appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you very much, James. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, Ron.
Bye-bye.